So this is episode 2 of changing my life, and I'm getting ready to go work out. I think today was a day. I'm feeling a mixed bag of emotions, but at the top of that mixed bag is grief, and it's weird. Like, it's grief is a complex emotion. I don't want to say it's easy because grief, and obviously I'm not a grief counselor, so any grief counselors, please feel free to chime in. But like, grief is such a complex emotion because, like, grief, and I'm just speaking candidly here, grief makes sense when the person is no longer here. Like, all grief essentially is love with nowhere to go when the person is no longer here. But grief just hits different when you're grieving a person that's still alive. And that's why, and like, that's what I'm saying, this ain't my first rodeo. I've been here before, and I'm not, trying to talk in riddles here, but like, you're grieving who you thought this person was, the life that you could have had with this person, or that y'all could have built together. You're grieving who you thought this person was. And it's just like the disappointment. Like, I think it's just the disappointment. And I think all of this is coming up because I got a call today, and it was for a bone marrow transplant. And just to provide a little context, a young lady I went to high school with, rest in power to Bree, she unfortunately passed, obviously. And before she passed, she used her platform, even in the midst of her own illness, to spread awareness for bone marrow and blood cancer disease. And she encouraged everyone who went to school with her, friends, family, to, go get on the registry. And this was back in 2022, 2023. And I ended up I ended up getting on the registry, did the blood work. I think they did it at LabCorp, Quest Diagnostics, the whole thing. And in 2023, I got a call that I was a match. And I remember Carol, which was my intake specialist. Shout out to Carol. She was with the organization I did the registry with. And she was just like, Victoria, I remember she called me at work, and she was just like, are you available to have a conversation about what this is going to mean? And she told me the bone marrow was for a 17-year-old kid. And she, obviously with HIPAA in place, there was only so much she could tell me at that time. And so I told her, yeah, this is back in 2022, 2023. I went and did the blood work, and, they put me on the donor list. And I was a match for this 17-year-old kid who had leukemia. And then I got a call again this week and said, hey, Victoria, that same patient in 2023 is looking like a yes. And so I said, okay, tell me when and where, and I'll be there. And then obviously it's, bone marrow, it's a little bit different than just, like donating blood or donating plasma. You could give in something that's called peripheral blood stem. That's when they put you up to the machine and all that stuff. And then that's 80% of the time. 20%, which is what I'm going to have to do, is the bone marrow transplant from the hip. And, they'll put me under general anesthesia, the whole nine. It's an outpatient surgery, so it's not, not much downtime. But it's just a mixed bag of just like grief on top of, like, it's like God has a sense of humor, yo. Like grieving somebody that is still alive, in the midst of me potentially saving someone else's life so their family doesn't have to grieve. it's like, it's just a mixed bag, bro. It's a mixed bag. And I don't know where God is like God has a sense of humor, and God is like so meticulous. God is in the details, bro. God is in the details. And I don't know what God is doing. Obviously, his ways are not my ways. His thoughts is not our thoughts. But it's just a mixed bag, bro. And part of me is, it's a blessing to, potentially save somebody else's life, because right now I'm the donor that's on hold for the next 7 to 12 weeks. So, they'll let me know. Carol will call me and let me know what's next. But to get my blood work redone up in order, because it's been, since 2023. But it's a mixed bag. And this is the part that, a lot of people don't talk about. Is like, it's one thing to grieve somebody who's no longer here in the physical, but in the spiritual. But it's another thing to grieve somebody who's still walking this earth. And it's like bittersweet. You letting go of something because God has something way better. But also that small piece of grief of what could have been had the person just done the work. And I was having a conversation with my best friend about this. And she was just like, Vicky, you have always been known to overfunction when someone is underperforming. And grief comes in where, now mind you, it's been months. Grief just comes. It hits you when you least expect it, bro. Like, I didn't expect this. But, obviously this ain't my first rodeo. I know it happens, and the only way out is to feel your way through. But, yeah, this is episode 2. So, yeah.